Hello Year 10. This video is an assessment feedback video where I'm going to go over the results of the assessment. I want to tell you about the Socrative quiz and how we got on with that, and then the 2 exam style questions, how we got on generally, and what good answers looked like, as well as what we're looking to see in those exam style questions. So my advice would be, particularly when I'm going through the exam style questions, have a different colour pen and annotate your own answers as I go through it. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you first of all about the Socrative. Generally, as a class, we did pretty well. The average score amongst the class was 9.5 out of 14. So we did pretty well with it. There were 4 questions that we struggled with, and I'm going to go through them now. The first was, I've put number 3 there, and that's incorrect. The first was question number 4. Question number 4 was a question about bad smells. The question is, disease was often blamed on bad smells. What word was used for bad smells? That word is miasma. Now, looking at the results here, 26% of us got that right. And so that key word miasma is very important. The good news is that the theory of miasma, of bad smells, doesn't really go anywhere. And so you will be seeing that word a lot as we move through the course. Next up was question number 7. The idea that God created herbs or plants to cure disease was called the doctrine of ... And just looking at it here, question number 7, only 30% of us knew the answer to that. The answer is the doctrine of signatures. And if you remember, we had a starter activity where we were guessing the different parts of the body based on those different herbs and plants. So that's the doctrine of signatures. Question number 8 was a true or false question, and only 35% of us got it right. Question 8 was, true or false, most medieval hospitals did try to cure diseases. Now, the vast majority of us have said that that was true, when in fact it was false. Medieval hospitals didn't try to cure diseases, they were trying to treat the symptoms of those diseases. And so a little bit of a trick question, but medieval hospitals were far more focused on trying to deal with fighting symptoms of disease rather than trying to cure the actual disease itself. And then speaking of mean questions, the last one, question number 14, I think this would have been better as a multiple choice. But the question was, what 2-word term is used to describe the health of the whole population? We had some answers that were very close, like public well-being or the national health. But the correct answer is public health. Like I said, a bit of a cruel question, that one. I think in the future we'll change that so that it's a multiple choice question. Only 9% of us, 2 students, got that right. So well done to those 2 people. That was Nancy and Sarah. Well done to you too. Like I said, generally that was a pretty mean question, and next time I will probably ask that's a multiple choice. Okay, I'm now going to talk to you about section B, the 2 exam style questions. In total they were worth 16 marks. We'll talk about the first one, which was the how useful question, which you can see there. How useful is source A to an historian studying medical ideas about the cause and cure of disease? We can see there the image from a manuscript produced by monks in the 1300s showing the king curing the king's evil through the royal touch. Scrofula, as it was known, was a disease caused by the same bacteria that leads to tuberculosis. It was believed that the touch of the king's hand could cure a patient. Now let's remind us how we approach a how useful question. We split it up into 2 paragraphs. 8-mark questions always have 2 paragraphs, content and provenance. So the first paragraph will be on one of those things, content or provenance, and the second paragraph will be the other. And always remember that we need your contextual knowledge as well. You need to get your own knowledge in there. Now, we did better in this one than we did in the how significant question. The average mark in this answer was just below 6 out of 8. So generally we did very well. And I think that's because we all had a good effort at the first practice question for how useful, so we knew what to expect. A big well done to Hannah C, Sophia, Larissa and Lydia, who all got full marks on this question. Now, I could have used any of those 4 answers here, but I've chosen Sophia's because it was the first on the pile. But all 4 of those answers had the same things in common. First of all, we've got 2 separate paragraphs. We've got a first paragraph focusing on provenance and a second one focusing on content. Both of those paragraphs in those 4 answers were supported by clear, relevant, precise knowledge linking to the question and an explanation of why that is useful. So if we look at Sophia's answer here, we'll look at just the first paragraph for now. So first of all, Sophia has pointed out when it was made, which is the 1300s, and that it was produced by monks. The knowledge then comes here that it was produced in a monastery, manuscripts and illustrations were studied by doctors and students, and that these images were a common way to educate and teach. And by using that, we're talking about purpose there as well. Okay, then Sophia's knowledge is about superstition, that superstitious beliefs were dominant and superstition led to supposed cures for illnesses like the king's evil. But also what Sophia's done is linked to the power and the influence of the church. Doctors and medical students and how they thought diseases could be cured, and they're linked to useful. Again, in the last paragraph, this source is useful overall because it shows historians how doctors were educated and what was believed in the 14th century. So we've got, in terms of the provenance, we've got origin, nature, purpose. We've got what it is, when it was made, and by who and why they made it. Good supporting knowledge, and a link back to what historians can learn from that. And that was done consistently well in both paragraphs, and that's why 8 marks out of 8 were awarded. Okay, the second question is the significant question, and it's a bit of a mean one actually, because people approached it in different ways. Because it says Hippocratic and Galenic medicine, quite a lot of people answered one paragraph on Hippocrates and then another paragraph on Galen. What you need to do is talk about both of those concepts, both of those ideas together. One paragraph for short-term significance and the second paragraph for long-term significance. So even though 2 ideas have been presented here, please avoid, if this happens in a future question, please avoid dealing with them separately. What you need to do is you need to focus on this keyword here, significance. And in a significance question, the 2 paragraphs are short-term and long-term. Now, because of the confusion over what was expected and how to approach it in this question, we didn't do as well on this one as the first question. Now, the average mark in the How Useful question was 5.8. The average mark in this question was 4.8. Well done to Amani, Aisha and Sarah, who all got level 4 answers, which is 7 or 8 marks out of 8 in this question. So the answer we're going to look at is Aisha's answer. Now you can see that I've underlined every time that significant has been used, and you can see that the mentions of significance all in the first picture, the first page, are all about short-term significance of Galen and Hippocrates, and then in the second paragraph the focus is on significance in the long term. So there is a good separation of short and long-term significance. In this answer, for example, it says here, Galen always spoke about God and had strong Christian views. This could actually go a little bit further and show how the church's support led to Galenic medicine dominating for centuries, because it aligned with Christian teaching. And remember that significance can be positive and negative. So you could say that the significance in the short term is that it held medical progress back because it wasn't challenged. Significance doesn't have to be positive. But as you can see here in this answer, we've got knowledge of both of our key individuals and their evidence of medicine. Some really good knowledge, clear focus on significance, long term and short term. A big well done, everyone. On average, as a class, we are working at a grade, basically a 6.5, a 6/7 across the class. That's the average grade that we've come out with. 15 students are currently on or above target in this assessment at this stage. That is fantastic. Mostly because it's so early in the course and we've got so much learning and improvement still to do. So a big well done. I'm really pleased that I've got 15 students on or above target at this moment. Whether you are or aren't on target, what you need to do at this stage is, if you haven't been adding notes to your answers as we've gone, I'd recommend you do that. Get another colour pen and annotate your answers. Write down how marks can be won, how marks can be lost. And that will help you prepare for your next assessment. But I wanted to say that I'm really pleased with the level that we're working at this early stage in the course. Well done.